Good morning, everyone. I've titled my speech, It Begins With You. Something happened just about 3-4 years ago. I used to be among those people that would sit down, spend a lot of time and complain about the problems we have. How many of us agree that we have problems in Nigeria? So I used to be among those people that would sit down and really complain about the problems. I also used to be among those people that believed that nothing can be done about that I as an individual was insignificant to make a difference. But as I sat down one day in a gathering like this, at an event called SWOT Talks, a group of people had come together to talk about making a difference. And a story was shared that touched me so much. And the story was, a young man was on the road driving. And as he parked, he noticed another car parked. What is very usual for us in this part of the world for different reasons, some of them justifiable, is if you see someone in distress on the highway, and in this case it was Third Mainland Bridge, just go on, because you don't even know if it is real or not. And the story, as the man shared it, he said that he was in the car with his sister, and for some reason, he was moved and he stopped. He felt that there was a man sitting behind the steering, and all of a sudden he stopped moving. They couldn't understand. Immediately as they stopped, something touched the sister that had a little medical background to check his vital signs. And apparently what had happened, the man had just had a heart attack. What touched me the most in that story was that they were on the road and tried as much as possible to stop other vehicles so that they could try and get some help. According to him, this happened at a time whereby the mobile phone was not ubiquitous as it is now. And no one stopped. Eventually, a mobile vehicle that was passing saw them and said, okay, there's an emergency just at the foot of the bridge, we'll let them. Left them, but they told the emergency people and they came. They were able to get that person to the hospital. That story touched me so much that I asked myself, imagine if that person eventually said he survived, they rushed him to the hospital, but imagine if no one stopped, the man would have just died. I also remember the story with my grandmother. I spent the first 11 years living with my grandmother in Benin. That she always made me understand that wherever you can, give a helping hand. It's become a difficult thing now, especially in the times which we live in. And so after I had that experience, I decided that I'm no more going to be among those that would amplify the problem. Yes, the problem is huge. Sometimes when we even look at the country Nigeria, some of us question probably, should we be united? Should we be one Nigeria? We have 3 main tribes, we all know. At the same time, there are a lot of other tribes. As many as we have tribes, we could almost say that's how we could even be divided. But we all have one thing in common, and that is one Nigeria. Whether some of my brothers in the East, is a little sect, are trying to remove themselves from that, but as far as we know, Nigeria is still one. And that oneness is what unites us. I grew up also at a time whereby it was easy for me to walk on the streets without being afraid. My primary school was more than 30 minutes walk away from my house. And I used to walk to school and walk back sometimes. I have 2 daughters, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. I'm scared to even say to them unaccompanied, go down the street and get something because of the times which we live in. So the question I asked, what has changed? And one of the answers I give is the fact that what has changed is that we as human beings, we've stopped caring. We've stopped believing. We've stopped caring, we've stopped believing, and we've stopped thinking that we can make a difference. I decided that as an individual, I would go ahead and make a difference, because there is indeed a power in you. I recently studied something called domino effect. And it's so fascinating when you see how you have dominions and just one touch, it could affect so much. As much as possible. I've realized that the power is in my hands to be able to make a difference. The power is also in your hands to be able to make a difference. I've also realized that the various little things can indeed make a difference. Recently, I started a campaign on my own street. And what do? Every time I'm walking on the street, if I see someone drop trash on the floor, I will go and meet the person and say, please pick it up. And I explain that you and I are complaining that the whole of Lagos is dirty. And why are you doing this? Are you solving the problem or are you adding to it? I conclude by telling you this story that also touched me a great deal. It's about Walt Disney. We are told by history that he died in 1966. And the famous Walt Disney Park, or the famous Walt Disney World that we know and talk about as in Florida, was opened in 1971. And the story was told on the day of its opening, that among the directors, someone said, oh, I wish Walt Disney was here. Another person tapped him and said, no. He saw it in his mind's eye and walked towards it. And today, that which he saw back then is what we are seeing now. If we want to indeed bring about a change, we have to first and foremost see it in our mind's eye. Believe that it is possible. Walk towards it. You and I, one step at a time, in our own sphere of influence, can indeed make a change for a better Nigeria. A better Nigeria will also lead to a better world for you and I and generations unborn. Thank you.